and welcome my fellow nerds back to Nerdian, or if you're brand new here, thank you so much for tuning in. I am Christian, and I'll be your host tonight on this episode of Totally Bored, and today we are going to do some hiking. And while we're at it, we might as well also do some biking and kayaking. Let's go to the woods. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about Trailblazers, the perfect travel game. What's that over there? Here you go. Here's the travel game. That's such a stupid bit. I'm gonna restart that. I'm sorry to myself and anyone who might see this. That is so bad. So on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the perfect travel game, Trailblazers. Except this box is a little deceiving, isn't it? As when you open it up, we got a rulebook, some small pieces down here at the bottom, and a score pad. So where is the actual game, you might ask, with all of this empty space up here? Well, here you go. Your perfect travel companion, the Trailblazers clamshell case. So I did go above and beyond and get the deluxe edition for this game because I really talked myself into it. I had a lot of reasons to want it. So I'm going to be doing my review on this, but also be including bits and pieces about just the travel version, so you don't have to necessarily worry about just the deluxe edition. You'll get kind of a small comparison between the two and be able to know which one might be better for you, if either of them at all. So if you guys aren't used to me doing reviews or you've never seen one of mine before, I'm going to go through this by talking about a brief overview of the game and how it plays. I'm going to go into the cons or the things that I don't like about the game, and then finish off with the pros or the things that I do like about the game before I give you my final rating on where this game sits in my collection. So to start off today, like I mentioned, this is a travel-friendly game, but also has the capacity to be an at-home game that could be a big table expanse. So with the deluxe edition, you are able to play 1 to 8 players, whereas just the base travel edition was only going to come with 1 to 4. So if you want a higher player count, you pretty much need to get the deluxe edition, or you can even just buy 2 of the travel editions and make it work. The only way that they really get up to the higher player count is they add in a second deck of cards for you to be able to play with, which I have not opened yet because I have never gotten above 4 players. I plan to someday, so I keep this as backup, but that's really all it is. It's just a different colored deck of cards to make sure that everybody has enough to be able to play when you hit that max 8-player count. So, while we're talking about cards, what do these cards do, and really, what is the whole purpose of this game? So each player is going to be taking on the journey of creating the best campsites imaginable with hiking, biking, and kayaking trails. And the way you're going to be doing all this is through these trail cards, which are going to provide you with a mixture of the 3 different types of trails available, being biking, hiking, and kayaking. The water being the kayaking, the orange being the biking, and the brown being the hiking. A lot of rhyming, might be a little bit hard to keep track of it all, but trust me, once you get into playing it, it's really not that big of a deal. You're just color coordinating and making it work that way. So at its core, this game is a tunnel puzzle, or a pipe puzzle, as some have referred to it. And this is actually based off of another game by, I believe, the same designer that had a pipe puzzle, but also had like an economic thing to it. This is just the puzzle. This is just the pipe part of it. You are building out these trails from these campsites to be able to score points. And how you're going to be doing this is over a series of rounds, wherein at the start of a round, you are going to draw 8 cards. You are then going to pick 2 of those cards and pass the hand on to the next person. So there is a drafting element to this, but as you're picking the cards, you are placing them into your campsites, and once they are there for the game. In total, you're going to have 24 cards being added to your camps, as this is played over 4 rounds, and you're going to be drafting 6 cards at a time. So you're going to start off, basically, you draw your 8, take 2, pass on the 6, you're going to get 6, you're going to take 2, pass on the 4, you'll get 4, and then once it's down to just 2 cards in hand for everybody, those cards just get discarded, and you start the next round. At the start of each round, you are going to be choosing one of your 3 camp types, the kayak, the bike, or the hiking gear shop, and you are going to place that into your camp. It has to be touching a tile that's already in your area. No kitty corners. You can't do no quarter to quarter business. It has to actually touch. but you can place it wherever that you like, even if the trail that it might be touching doesn't match it, or if it's not even actually touching a trail, it just touches a card. That is completely legal as long as it goes into your play area, touching something else with an actual face. You can even do camps up to camps, it does not matter. Just know that doing that will limit your options because each of these camps only has 8 entrances and exits, meaning that you only have 8 locations that a trail can leave and return to on your camps, leaving you with a maximum of 4 possible trails per camp. So how this plays out in theory is that you are trying to build big trails off of all of these camps to score maximum points, meaning that you have to leave a camp and then have that trail return back to be able to actually score points for it. Unfinished trails will score you nothing. So you're going to have basically 3 different projects going on at a time, where, like I said, the first 3 rounds of the game, you're placing out a new camp every time, and then the 4th round is basically a cleanup phase where you get another chance to play cards to finish off trails that you still have open. And it sounds really easy in concept. It's a very simple game to teach, but it is very punishing. Again, you only get 24 cards, and that seems like quite a bit when you consider that basically these are worth 2 squares apiece. But there are moments where you're just not getting the right things that you need, and you really have to plan ahead and kind of hope that you get certain cards, but you're never guaranteed to get those. And that's where the punishing aspect comes in, because you'll build up this massive trail, and you'll have an open end. You're like, I just need this one specific card. It's the perfect spot for it. You get to the final round, you know you have 3 more drafts to do, and that card never comes up. You never see it, and it's the worst feeling ever, because you got punished for trying so hard, whereas someone that was just over there spamming trails gets all of the points. But that is where you can get into the expansions for this game. Base Trailblazers is already quite astonishing, but you get into the expansions herein, and I am missing one, but I do have access to play it. But the first expansion that I will talk about is Animals, the Animals expansion. This one gives you a new way to gain points, but one thing I should mention before we get into the animals is that in base Trailblazers, you are allowed to overlay these cards. If you have paths that you don't quite like, you can overlay part or all of a card to be able to change those trails that are there. Now, anything that you cover is completely lost. You're never going to be able to recover that. But with the animals expansion, on some of these cards, let me see if I can find one here. On some of these cards, they will have animals on them. Like, for example, this one has a wolf attached to the bike trail. So when you draft this card, if you choose this card and put it into your play area, you are then optionally allowed to take a wolf from the animal token supply and place it on that card. Now, this does a couple of things. That animal now locks that tile in place. That card can never be covered by any other card. That is permanently on your board for the rest of the game, meaning that it could potentially interfere with a lot of other things you got going on if it's not exactly the one that you needed. The second thing it does is gives you an extra way to score points at the end of the game. For every animal that you have on a completed trail that's a different type, you will score extra points. So say, for example, I had this wolf on this trail, I end up completing it and looping it all the way back to the bike shack. If I had this wolf and another wolf on it, that's only going to be 1 point because that only counts as one variety of animal. Remember, the people that are going on these trails want to see a lot of different things. So if instead of that, I had a black bear on my trail, that now goes up to 3 points. Tremendous. But if I went even further in that and say I also had an eagle on that trail, that path will now score an additional 6 points. It's an exponential gain as you're adding more and more varieties of animals to this trail. But remember, there's only going to be 1 animal per card, and anytime you put an animal on a card, it is locked in. And you also need to make sure that these animals are on the same trail type that you're building on because it only corresponds to a trail type. Back to this wolf example here, there's also water paths on here, but the wolf does not count for that because that is not where he's hanging out. He's hanging out on that bike trail, so that's the only trail that gets points for that guy. So you're really kind of getting this extra layer of thinking of, do I want to make this my animal path? And if so, how big is it going to have to be to accommodate the amount of animals that I want here? And it is such a tough decision. There is a grand gambit. If you can hit every animal type on one trail, it's an extra 21 points. which is already considered like a fairly high-scoring trail. So if you have a really long trail that has all those animals, you're effectively doubling its score in most circumstances. But that's pretty much all you're going to be doing, because it's going to take a lot of effort to be able to build a trail like that and get what you need off of it. Not to mention, trails and animals aren't the only way you're scoring points as well. In the base game, there are these goal cards. Every game of multiplayer Trailblazers, you're going to be dealing out 2 endgame goals and 2 in-game goals. And effectively with these, with the in-game goals, you're going to be racing to be the first to complete that objective, because if you are the first one, you will score the most points on that. Whereas with the end-game goals, you're looking to be the best at it in most cases, which will also give you the most points. Now, these goals, respectively, only give you 6 points for being in the highest spot, 3 for being in the second, and 1 point for being in third, and nothing for being after that. The trouble with these is that you can potentially get all 4. So now, you don't just have to think about your trails and making sure they loop back to your camps while also scoring a bunch of points. You're also thinking about animals. You're also thinking about these goals, and for such a simple game, there is a lot of thought-provoking here. It is such a puzzle, a mastermind-crafted puzzle that makes you delve into every little bit of it, and it makes you want just a piece of everything to try to maximize on it. But really, being a specialist kind of helps you maximize as well. Think of this game as being a painter and being told to create a masterpiece in only 24 minutes. You could either spend that 24 minutes dedicating yourself to one area and making it look as intricate and beautiful as possible, or you can start doing broad strokes and get your good baseline to have a framework for later. You're never going to get just the perfect thing that you want, because you only have so much opportunity and not quite enough time to make it work. So I've already mentioned 3 things that you have to consider. What if we put in a 4th? Now, this one doesn't really play with the Animals expansion, and I don't really believe it uses goal cards, but this is the Camper or the Adventurer expansion, wherein you are building trails for people to actually move along, and if you don't build the trail fast enough, you're going to end up not scoring as many points as you want. Basically, you want them to go along the most exciting trail possible, putting down these campfires as they move to be able to score you points at the end of the game when you complete those trails. But if you're not fast enough and your adventurer catches up to the end of the trail before you can keep building it, they're going to put a campfire on its side and it's worth a lot less points. Especially considering if you actually finish the trail, you still have to do that. And ultimately, you're not actually scoring points for the trails themselves, but for how many campfires you have at the end of the game, which these guys are putting out based on how good your trail is. So it's not necessarily about building multiple trails, you really are just focusing on building long trails, but you gotta keep doing it every turn, and you gotta make sure that you're constantly making progress along the path they're going. And so it doesn't allow you as much room to set up on the other end. There are some cases where you start a trail and you kind of plan the endpoint and try to build them to meet together. Whereas in this version, if you try to do that, you're going to end up with some of those weaker campfires and suffering some point losses by doing so. And it causes very, very tough situations that just makes things awkward. I haven't really dove too far into that one yet, but I do think it's quite exciting. Although my preference still lies in just doing the Animals expansion, because this is already so much to think about, and it's something that I want to master first before I really go and tackle something like that at such an expert level. So I've been thus far talking about the 2 to 4/2 to 8 player experiences with all of these different expansions. But what if you wanted to play it solo? Well, in this version, you are completely in luck, as you get an entire rulebook just for solo mode. Everything in full detail on what you need for solo mode, and it's only, I mean, it's literally just a cover. It's a set of covers, that's all it is. But the details that are in here are quite impressive, and you actually get so many different solo modes. You get the base solo mode or the standard solo mode, which comes with this list of challenges that will basically guide you through your Trailblazers journey. It starts you off by just beating a game with 30 points, with 40 points, and then 50 points, and then you move on to the real meat and difficulty of these challenges, wherein you are now taking these in-game and end-game goals and trying to beat them before the end of the game. With the in-game goals, you still have to have them done by the end of the 3rd round, just like in the base game. And if you don't have those goals finished, then you lose. All of your points, they don't matter if you don't finish that goal by the end of the 3rd round. Endgame goals are a little more graceful. They give you till the end of the game, but it's even tighter because it doesn't necessarily have you meet the goal, because those are majority points. You want to have the most of something or be the best at something. They give you a quota to meet on them for the solo mode. That it's tough. These challenges are ridiculous. I think I'm on 3rd challenge after probably like 10 plays. It is very difficult because you're trying to meet these goal cards in time, but you also have to meet a 50-point threshold. Once you get past the initial points goals, every one of these challenges requires you to complete the goals and hit 50 points, and what's worse, the goals do not give you points. And you also can't use animals in this to get extra points. This is literally just base Trailblazers where you're trying to beat the goals, but they do have an Animals expansion solo mode as well. Now, let me read this off for you because this is something. So, first off, correction, there is actually no Animal solo mode, but there is an Epic solo mode which does include the Animals. So let me read off some of this here. So the goal is to win Epic solo mode by scoring enough animal points from loops after 4 rounds. If victory is achieved, you may continue on to the bonus stages if you wish. Bonus stages after 4 rounds. Let me get into the gameplay here. Like the standard game, Epic Solo Mode is played across 4 rounds of selecting and arranging camp and trail cards into your personal area. Pretty standard stuff, we're used to that. To start the round, draw a hand of 8 trail cards from the deck. If you do not have any camps in your play area, you must select and place one of the camps in the topmost row. If you have at least 1 camp, you may instead choose to discard a camp from the topmost row by returning it to the box. Oh, I should let you know here that you have 3 of each camp. So there's that. So that's why you're allowed to discard camps, because you have 9 of them. Anyways, in the 4th round, no new camp will be placed or discarded. The 2nd and 3rd row of camps are used in Springer Fever and Triple Crown respectively. See below. There's more. Round play is the same as in the standard solo mode, with the exception that you are including the rules from the Animal expansion. So there you go. Animal solo mode, right? Doesn't seem too bad. It's not over. So the end game and scoring. The game ends at the completion of the 4th round, also pretty standard. Check for victory by scoring only animal points. Only animals. As described in the scoring for animals section of the multiplayer rulebook, which is the exponential scoring. Tally your score by recording animal points for each trail type on the Epic Solo Mode high score sheet. If your total animal points reach or exceed 25, congrats. You have 1 Epic Solo Mode. If your animal points are below 25, you have lost. That doesn't sound too tough, but not every card has an animal on it. And not every card has an animal on the trail that you're looking for. Okay, that seems fine. Let's move on. What's this extra detail here? Bonus stages. If you win Epic Solo Mode, then you may continue on to the first bonus stage, Springer Fever. If you win Springer Fever, then you may continue on to the final bonus stage, Triple Crown. Doing so is optional in both cases. Okay, let's read Springer Fever, shall we? So the goal is to build off of the foundation you've laid in the Epic Solo Mode and win Springer Fever by scoring 75 or more animal points from loops after 4 rounds of play. So you get an additional 4 rounds to get another 50 animal points. Not trails, animal points. Oh boy, if victory is achieved, you may continue on to the final bonus stage if you wish. Well, let's read the final bonus stage, shall we? Triple Crown. The gold is built off of the foundation you've laid in Springer Fever. So you've gone through basically 2 full games of Trailblazers at this point, if you've made it this far. Now you get to play a third. It's even better the third time, right? So the goal is build off of the foundation you've laid in Springer Fever and aim to get a high score by scoring only the single longest loop of each trail type, hiking, biking, and kayaking, after 4 more rounds of play. Triple Crown is played in the exact same manner as Springer Fever. The only difference is your objective. By breaking up loops, extending them, and reconnecting them, you'll be able to get a high score. Although animal scoring no longer matters, the tricky part will be that you still can't overlap cards with animal figures on them. Good luck. So you get 2 games of Trailblazers where you play with the animals expansion and you only get points off of the animals. And the first game you need to beat 25, the second game you need to have an extra 50, totaling 75 or more. The third game of Trailblazers that you can play back to back to back is all about just scoring the longest trails and getting a high score where you would usually then be, well, breaking up trails and reconnecting them like they suggested, but you've placed all these animals out there and they can't be broken up because you can't overlay on them anymore, and just... That's just the solo mode. That's just the solo mode. That's not even like an actual game thing for multiplayer. It's just for solo mode. Oh, okay. I'm going to take a little reset before I get too intense about this, because that is just crazy. Of course, there is also a solo mode in here for the Adventurer expansion as well, but again, I have not tinkered with that. There is already just so much going on. Let's get talking about the actual review for this game, because it's a very simple concept. Again, you're drafting cards, laying them down on your board, trying to get these trails that score a bunch of points. Basically, that's the entire overview of the game, but I had to get into the rest of this because some of it is just so intense. So to actually get into the review portion of it, let's start with the cons, or the things that I don't like as much. So, for starters, since I got the deluxe edition, this was part of the reason I ordered it, is that you get these PVC plastic cards that are waterproof. The only downside to them is that they are a lot more slippery than just the base cards. My dad has the normal version, and I've played around with them, and I've felt them, and they definitely slip a lot less, but it is an obstacle I can overcome. I am kind of dealing with it, and I am working on getting a playmat so that playing games like this is a little less tedious, and you don't have to worry about stuff shuffling as much. So that is something that is dealable. I can handle that. I have ways around it to make it work, and that is totally fine. The other things that I don't like about this is, well, it's kind of misleading in its advertising. It says 1 to 8 for the deluxe version, again 1 to 4 for the standard version. This really feels like one of those games that was designed for a solo player, and they just found a way to make it multiplayer. I don't think it's a bad thing, though. It's just something that, to me, it's a little misleading. It's like games that advertise their, like, 1 to 5 player counts, when really it plays best at 2 to 3, and the other ones should probably be ignored. They just wanted to slap the number on the box to give it more credence. This game, I can excuse it a bit more, because it does still play well at multiplayer. But again, you have all of this fantastic stuff in the solo play rulebook that is not included in the base game. Like, they literally separate the rulebooks. This is solo only, and this one just says 2 to 8, because the rules are completely separate, but this one feels a lot more fleshed out and thought out than this does. It feels like this was just kind of born off of this. They had all of these rules already in here, and they said, well, wait, why don't we just separate the single-player only stuff and then make a rulebook for more players so that more people can play? And I appreciate that. I do like the fact that they have made this multiplayer, and the important parts of the game did make it to the multiplayer versions. I don't know if I would actually play the Epic Solo Mode multiplayer, but it would be kind of nice to think of it being an option. But again, it takes a lot of camp cards, so it does make sense that it doesn't fit into the multiplayer vibe, but it's just, there's so much more going on in the solo mode that to me it feels like it was designed for solo and then the multiplayer was added on after. But again, I really can't give them too much hate for it because they implemented it really well for the multiplayer side of it. Other than that, there's not really much that I dislike about it. Maybe I could argue that I'm not a big fan of the box, because the only reason that I keep this is to store the animal tokens and the adventurer tokens and the rulebook. That's literally all I have this box for. That's everything that goes in there. Everything else I leave in this clamshell carry case because it's just so simple to be able to take and have with me. The only problem is that in the deluxe version, you don't get the animal expansion tokens that can go in the case, so you can't really play with animals on the go. I get why they didn't, because we get nice screen-printed wooden ones in here, but I think for a deluxe version, maybe just spraying in that extra little piece in there to make sure that I have a full travel version as well as the deluxe nice at home version. But again, I can't complain too much there because I really wanted the wooden screen printed stuff and feel like I have a deluxe game and a deluxe experience. I am such a sucker for that stuff, and it's not even like a huge difference for this game, but it feels so nice when you're building out your trails and you see all these animals poking up out of them, and it's just such a satisfying feeling. I absolutely love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I might just go and get the token animal expansion later so that I can fit it in here with this stuff. I do again appreciate that the deluxe edition comes with the clamshell case, but I feel like, again, you could have made the travel-friendly stuff in the box as well to go with this, because you know that if I bought the deluxe edition and I'm expecting the clamshell case, I'm gonna want this game to travel. But I still don't mind it because even just the base game for traveling is really good, and if you're playing solo mode, you're probably not going to be playing the epic solo mode for quite a while anyways, so having that there is fine. So now to talk about the things that I do like about this game, and it's just about darn everything. It's pretty dang close to about all of it. It's such a simple concept, but so meaty and thinky and lucky, and it's got everything all wrapped up into one for just a simple card drafting game. But it's got those moments of tension where you have frustration because you're not finding the cards that you want, and then all of a sudden in the next hand you get exactly what you need, but 3 of the cards that you need are in that hand, and you can only take 2 of them, and you have to pass the rest on, and it's probably not going to make it back to you in all likelihood. So you do get the tension and the suspense and the satisfaction when everything comes together, or when it all bubbles down and fails. Pretty much everyone I've heard talk about this game in reviews has mentioned it is a game of hubris. You get started in this big project thinking, I have plenty of time to finish this, and then the end of the game rolls around in the next second, and you're like, where did all of the time go? I've barely even started this mass project, and now it's just doomed. There's no way I can recover it, and that happens a lot. Or there's even a lot of situations where you're just like 1 or 2 cards away, and you only get 2 picks left, and you fall short, and it's, it grinds the gears. It makes everything churn and wonder what could have been different by the end of the game. And you're left thinking in that, but then it ends and it's done and it's over and you're putting the game away and you're looking forward to the next time thinking, I will conquer it this time. This will be the time that I get it. And lo and behold, it happens again. You fail yet again. You fall just ever so slightly short of victory. And then you just go through this continuous loop just like these trails. You're just going in these loops. And every time you feel like you're going to do better than the last, and you might eke out just a little bit more and start to realize how the placements work and actually piecing together a puzzle in your head. It does have this fulfilling satisfaction when you realize I am starting to improve at this game, but it's only ever so slightly. It's just that littlest bit of satisfaction that keeps you coming back for that extra dopamine hit once you hit the end and you get to score up and tally up all of your trails. And personally, I really do find this best at solo for that reason, because it provides this over-looming challenge that these gold cards aren't just there for nothing. Like, you can't just slap them away and ignore them. You have to face them and complete them. And it forces you to be better at the game with planning out how to make those work while also scoring a ton of points. Because you don't score points off those goals in the solo mode, only in the multiplayer. And I think that just really adds into the depth of it. And I can't say this enough. It is so simple yet hard to master. It is, it's pretty much everything I want in a game, and the fact that it just comes in this nice travel-friendly package, I can take it anywhere with me. It's a nice hard case, and it does what I need it to do. It's such a perfect game. It takes like probably about half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on the size of your group to be able to play it, and it's such a good time. Now, I will state again really quick kind of the differences between the versions. So I have the deluxe version that comes with all of the wood screen printed stuff, and also the travel clamshell case with the extra deck of cards to allow you to play 1 to 8 players, as well as full-size rulebooks. If you get just the base clamshell version, You will get the 1 deck of cards to be able to play 1 to 4 players. You can add the Animals expansion tokens so that you can actually fit the tokens in here and have that full expansion available. And then you will get a card that gives you a QR code to the rules. So you don't get the actual full rulebook, you will get this, and then that will direct you to the full rulebook online. So I do like the fact that you can get everything you need in just this one little case and be perfectly good to go and never have to touch any of it ever again. Again, I got the deluxe edition because I am vain, I love the extra stuff, and it just makes me feel really good about it. And this is a game I knew I was going to love before I even got it because I did all of the research on it. And to me, it was well worth it. But you're looking at a difference of 80 USD versus 25 for just getting this. And then I think it totals 35 if you add in the Animals expansion. It's another 10 bucks. And like I mentioned earlier, there is one more expansion in this game that I did not mention yet, and that is the Sasquatch expansion, which does require a minimum of 2 players, but it's got a really interesting thing where you have a hidden role added into this. You have one of your members could potentially be Sasquatch, or nobody could be Sasquatch. It's a very tricky system in the way that it works. It's unique. It's got a lot of unique rule sets to it, and I think it's quite fascinating. But definitely go do some digging into that because I haven't played it yet. I've only gotten to look at it and kind of play around with it a little bit. I didn't really get to do a whole lot with that expansion, but definitely do some digging into that and see if that's for you. That is completely separate from everything else. And of course, if for whatever reason you don't want the clamshell travel case, you can literally just get the travel version of this, which is just the cards in like a smaller case. I think it literally just comes in plastic, but I could be wrong on that. But that's if you don't really plan to travel that as much. You can get a cheaper version that's just the cards, like get the animals and whatever. There's a whole comparison sheet on the different versions of this game, so definitely look into that. I do appreciate that there are several versions of this to fit different people's needs for what they want out of the game. Like I said, this is what I wanted, but if you go with the regular version, you get all of this stuff. Just remember that these cards will not be PVC waterproof material, so you will have to worry about that. If you spill anything on them, it could end up, damaging them, of course, but I'm sure my stuff could still get damaged. It's just much less likely to. So I enjoy having that little extra security in there from that. But again, the PVC are more slippery, so if you want the less slippery cards, you can do the regular. And just go look at that chart. It gives you everything you need to know about the different versions. So overall, what would I rank Trailblazers? I am going to give this... God, I hate to say it, I do it so often, but this is a 10 out of 10 game. It's so different from anything else that I have in my collection. It fills such a nice spot. It's so satisfying. My wife loves it. My parents love it. Everyone that I've played it with so far absolutely loves this game. I can't emphasize enough. It's just so simple to teach, so easy to play, but so difficult and meaty and thinky when you get into it. You start on the surface thinking this will be no problem, this is a piece of cake, and then you're left at the end surrounded by fire saying this is fine. And ultimately, it's not fine. So another 10 out of 10 game for me. It just provokes so much emotion and is so much fun to play. Absolutely love everything about Trailblazers. So I would absolutely recommend it to anyone watching this video. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sorry if this was a little bit of a longer video. I have a lot of thoughts on this game, and I just love it to bits. So I will catch you guys all in the next one. As always, here at Nerd In, we hope you enjoy your stay. Peace out.